Well, hello, one and all. Thanks for stopping by again for more of your favorite morning treat. I'm speaking, of course, of cozy horror, spent here by the fire, listening to the rain and hearing great stories from great writers, read by me, Dr. Plague. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you'll like the stories I've picked out for you today. Starting out strong, we have a tale from AngRoffeAuthor, a tale about something we just can't do without, something that's a little bit important. I think you'll agree, at least. So let's hear a story about the light. Sorry for posting this so late, but it took me a while to find somewhere I could hide, a place that no one else could get hurt. I first noticed the light one day when I was in school. I was working on a class assignment for math, struggling to figure out how to do a problem. All of a sudden, a light shone on my paper, illuminating my work. Usually our teacher kept the lights off in the classroom, only allowing small string lights to light up the room. But when I looked up, no one else had noticed the new lights turning on. That's when I realized that the light was coming from directly behind my head. I turned around to see it, but there was nothing there. Only a faint light coming from somewhere in the back of the room. I didn't pay much attention to it. I thought maybe it was something in the wall, a reflection, or even my mind playing tricks on me. It was a few days before I noticed it again. It was at night, and I had a friend over from school. Her name was Lana, and we'd been in school together ever since kindergarten. Life had gotten busier for both of us, so we didn't really get a chance to hang out much, at least not as much as we used to. Luckily today, we had a day off due to the snow, and since she lived close, she was able to come over. Today we were playing video games on Lana's new Switch that she got for her birthday. I didn't have one, and when I found out that she did, I was ecstatic to have her over. For hours into the night, we played various different games, including Mario Kart and Mario Party. I really liked Mario Kart, even though I wasn't as good as she was. Everything was going smoothly. During one game, I was really close to winning. I was right about to take a shortcut, which Lana had showed me, but right as I was about to make the jump, a flash of light illuminated the room, momentarily blinding me. What the hell? I yelled out, throwing the controller down on the floor and rubbing my eyes. What's wrong? Lana had paused the game and was looking at me. That flash, it blinded me. I looked at the screen, noticing that my character had fallen over the edge of the map and was in the middle of being lifted back onto the track. So much for winning. What flash? I turned to her, twisting my head in confusion. Didn't you see that flash? It was so bright. It filled the whole room. I turned back towards the screen, but I could see a flash of concern on her face. We continued playing for another hour, but I couldn't really concentrate anymore. How could she not see it? Did she do that because she saw that I was winning? I shook my head at the thought. Her character had still been moving on the bottom of the screen, so I didn't know how she could use her phone to create a flash while I was playing. Plus, we were next to each other. I feel like I definitely would have noticed her. Lana excused herself to go to the bathroom, so I took my chance. I turned my head backwards slightly, trying to see if there was anything behind me. On the gray wall of my bedroom, there was a small yellow dot in the top corner. What was that? I strained my head trying to get a better look. Was it a bug or something? It didn't seem to be moving at all. I was about to stand up to examine it further, but then Lana came back. We finished a few more games, but all I could think about was that dot on the wall. When she finally left, I stood up to inspect it. Each time I tried to touch it, the light would disappear, but when I removed my hand, there it would be again. I looked around my room, finding a piece of paper and a roll of tape. I folded the paper several times over and taped it over the wall. Satisfied that the light was completely covered, I got ready for bed and fell asleep pretty quick after. I woke up, rubbing my eyes. Had it already been morning? I grabbed my phone. It was 1:53 a.m. That's when I realized that the light wasn't coming from the window. In fact, it was still completely dark outside. I looked up above my bed. The light was shining through the paper and illuminating my bed. "Hey, honey, have you been feeling okay? You've been looking tired the past couple of days." I looked up to see my mom looking over at me from the opposite side of the table. "Yeah, Mom, I'm fine. Things are just getting a little busy at school." That was a lie, but otherwise I didn't know what else to say to her. How was I supposed to tell her that a mysterious light was following me wherever I went? No one else seemed to notice it. She didn't even seem to notice it now, with the light shining directly on her face. "Okay, well, if there's anything I can do to help." "Thanks, Mom." She grabbed our plates from the table, walking behind me to set them in the kitchen sink. I heard a gasp from behind her and turned to see her staring at the back of my neck, wide-eyed. "What's wrong?" She stepped forward, holding her hand out to touch my neck. It burned. "Ow! What was that?" "I don't know, but have you been outside a lot recently? It looks like you have some sort of sunburn on the back of your neck." A sunburn? I reached around to the back of my neck, feeling the skin flake beneath my fingers. Was this from the light? It's not like I'd been outside recently, and even if I had been, the skies had been cloudy recently. There wasn't much sun this time of year. "We should take you to a doctor right now. That burn looks really bad." I wanted to argue, but I didn't know what to say. Maybe the doctor would be able to help, or at least tell me that I wasn't crazy. The drive to the doctor took less than half an hour, and luckily not too many people were in the waiting room. When they finally called my name, my mom walked up to the front with me. "I'll be right here when you come out." After the nurse brought me to the room, I felt the hair stand up on the back of my neck. Somehow I knew that the light was still with me. I didn't know how bright it was in the brightly lit doctor's room, but it was there. "Hello, Jen. It's nice to see you today. How's everything going?" "Things are going pretty well. Your mom tells me that she's worried about some kind of rash or skin issue on the back of your neck. Can I take a look?" I turned my head around so that the back of my neck was facing her. There it was. It's faint, but it was right there in the middle of the wall. As I felt her hands leave my neck, I turned back toward her. "When did you first start noticing this happen?" "I don't know. Not until today, at least." "Today? Were you outside a lot recently?" I shook my head. "Do you go to the tanning salon or something similar?" I shook my head again. I wanted to tell him what was happening, but what if she didn't believe me? Or what if she thought I was crazy and had me sent away somewhere? I mean, looking at this, it's like a classic case of sunburn. Too much sunlight. I just don't understand how this would happen this time of year. She looked up from the clipboard, eyebrows raised at me. "Do you have any other ideas about how this could be happening?" I paused for a few minutes before finally deciding. "I'm not sure, but I've been seeing this light." "A light?" "Yeah, it started a few weeks ago, but there seems to be this bright light following me around. I've seen it on..." Before I could finish, Dr. Paisley had pushed up from her seat and backed up against the wall. I stood there, holding my hands up towards her. "What's going..." "You need to leave. Right now." "Wait, but I thought..." She had already opened the door and ran out of the room, leaving me standing, dumbfounded. What the hell was going on? I turned back to the light on the wall. It seemed even brighter now. After a few weeks of this, I started to learn to live with the light. Started wearing a scarf all the time to cover up the back of my neck, and whenever I slept, I always used an eye mask or covered my face with a pillow. It didn't completely block out the light, but it helped. I was walking towards the library. Lana and I were supposed to meet up to work on a group project for our history class, and we needed some extra time outside of school to meet. With the constant light on me and anything in front of me, I was having trouble working at a fast enough pace during class. I saw Lana sitting on the steps leading up to the library, typing away on her phone. It was hard to see her from this far, but I yelled out to her to get her attention. When she looked up, I gasped, dropping my phone and books to the ground. Her face looked different. The skin on her face looked red and inflamed, and some of it was even peeling off. She noticed that I stopped in the middle of the sidewalk and started to walk towards me. As she got closer, her facial features became even more visible, and it looked even worse than I first thought. a few feet away, and now I could see that the skin on her face had started to peel off enough that long flaps of skin were hanging off her cheek. Long flaps dragged down her forehead, partially covering her eyes. On her nose, I could see exposed bone. "Hey, Jen," she smiled at me, waving her hand back and forth. How can she act as if everything was fine? Now that she was close up, the light behind my head shined even brighter on her face. I watched in horror as the flaps on her cheek peeled off, falling to the floor. Her gaze followed mine, and she looked down at the same spot where the skin had fallen. "What are you looking at?" She looked back up again, curiosity filling her face. Nothing. How are you doing? Are you feeling okay?" She looked from side to side, tightening the hood on her jacket around her face. "It's been getting a little too cold for me, but other than that, I'm okay. Are you ready to get this project started?" What was I supposed to do? Was this all part of my imagination? She seemed fine, even though she didn't look fine. "Yeah, sure." As we checked in at the front desk of the library, we made our way to one of the conference rooms in the back. I took out my notebook and my pencil, trying to ignore everything that was going on with my friend. I wanted to say something, but what was I supposed to say? "Hey, don't you notice your face is falling apart?" She would have thought I was crazy. Maybe I am. That would be the only thing that could explain what was happening. I blinked a few times, trying to read the information she was writing on the whiteboard. I think she was trying to schedule out what we should do next, but the intensity of the light was growing. The glare from the whiteboard blinded me, and I struggled to keep my eyes open. "Hey, are you okay?" Lana reached forward with her dried, inflamed arm. Now it was puffed up from all the light, and it was nearly twice the size it was before. I flinched from her touch. "If you're not feeling well, do you want to meet up another time instead?" I was about to decline when I saw her hand, and the rest of the room started to light up even brighter. Now the light was completely filling the entire room. Tears welled up in my eyes, and I couldn't see for a few seconds. When the light finally died down, I wiped my eyes with my sleeve. There Lana was, standing right in front of me. Her arm was reached forward, still, face twisted. But instead of her arm reaching out towards me, it looked like it had been ripped from her elbow. I screamed. Her wrist and hand were shriveled on the table, nearly burnt to a crisp. "Jen, what's going—" Before she could finish, I was already shoving my way out the door. I didn't even stop to say anything to the librarian, who had overheard the commotion from the conference room. I couldn't be around anyone right now. I ran all the way back to my house. I didn't want to stop. I couldn't stop. I didn't know what would happen if I did. The light started to shine brightly as I made my way through the rest of town. In my confusion and haste, I failed to notice an older man standing in the middle of the sidewalk. "Sorry," I yelled as I shoved my way past him. I heard him fall to the ground and heard a loud pop. I desperately wanted to turn back to see how he was doing, but I couldn't. I felt an arm grab me by the shoulder, twisting me around. A younger woman was glaring at me. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" I turned back to see a small crowd had gathered around the old man on the floor. His cane had snapped in half, and he was grabbing at his hip. "I'm sorry, I really need to. Look at what you did. How can you be so reckless? Are you trying to run away like nothing happened?" I tried to jerk my arm away from her grasp, but her grip on me was too tight. "Please, I really need to." "No, you need to stay here and wait for the police. Someone's already called them, and they're on their way." "Please, you don't understand." The light started to get even brighter now, brighter than it had been in the library. When I could finally see again, I stared in horror with my mouth wide open. The woman and the people behind her were all gone. All that remained were the charred bones. The snow around them had melted, leaving the bones floating in a puddle of water. The only thing that remained at my feet were ashes. I brought my hand up to my face, and I couldn't stop them from shaking. They were reddened and burnt, but I couldn't feel any pain. I ran, I ran without stopping all the way back to my house. I didn't know where else to go, but I had to go somewhere where no one else would be. Such a wonderful story, but we have to be moving on to the next one. This one's a short little one by Cuddlefush 2021, and it's about a strange creature that lives in the woods. Well, maybe not a strange creature. Maybe a strange man, in fact. So let's learn a little more about the Leopard Man. I know I'm going to sound insane to you, but what has been happening to me has freaked me out for many years. For context, I live in the mountains. The little town that I live in used to have a road going through it, and forest on either side. We used to get a lot of visitors around autumn because of how pretty the little town looked. Autumn was where we got a lot of money for hotels and restaurants. Many townsfolk anticipated autumn, but something sinister also comes with the season that affects our little town. The Leopard Man. Some people call him the Furry Man or the Fuzzy Man. Some people call him the Polka Dot Lion. But the most popular name is the Leopard Man. Every autumn, he comes through our town and just stares. He doesn't go in any of the houses. He doesn't attack anyone. Some of the townspeople have said that they've gotten real close to him, and they can see that his eyes are bloodshot red. He breathes heavily. He's got the odor of death stuck to him. Many townspeople find him very unsightly and try to keep the talk of him so low that the tourists can't hear about him. Keep the economy stable, you understand. But every year, he comes down the road, walks through the town, and leaves into the forest. I always thought he was harmless, until I had my first and final interaction with him. I was about 6, I guess. Wasn't very helpful to either of my parents. Loved to play outside, and when I couldn't, I threw a big hissy fit about it. I usually played in the front yard with my favorite soccer ball. I absolutely loved that ball. But one day, I accidentally kicked it into the forest. I didn't mean to, and I went to ask my parents if I could go get it. They said no, and when I suggested that maybe me or my mom or me or my dad could walk to the other side of the street and into the woods to get it, they still said no. I was pretty sad, cried my eyes out all day. I was a mess when I went to bed, and I was still really sad. Couldn't go to sleep. I kept thinking about it, just staring through the window, hoping I could sneak out before my parents would catch me. But then he came and stared through the window. The Leopard Man is a danger and shouldn't be messed with. I freaked out and ran to the corner of my room, trying to shield my eyes from him. He gestured that I should open the window, but I was too scared. Then the Leopard Man held something up. My soccer ball. It was deflated, but I didn't care. The Leopard Man had it, and I wanted it back. He gestured again that I should open the window, and this time I did. I cracked it, just a little bit. I was still really scared of him, and he smelt foul. "Well, well, well, I believe this is yours," said the Leopard Man, holding up the deflated soccer ball. "Yeah, that's mine. How'd you find it?" I said, prying the window just a little bit more open. "Well, I've been observing you, and I know just how deeply you care about that ball. When you kicked it into the forest and couldn't get it back, I felt sad for you, so I trekked through the woods and found it, and I'm now giving it back to you. It's ruined. It has a big hole in it. I can't play with it anymore," I said, looking disappointed. "Don't be sad. Here, if you come out of the house, me and you can trek to the fixie-uppy house, and we can get it fixed in no time." I thought about it, but shook my head. "You're a stranger. I don't even know who you are. And how do you know where I live?" "Well, I work with the Tooth Fairy, and together we know all the names of the boys and girls around the globe. I know your name's William. I know who your mommy and daddy are. Would I really be a stranger if I knew what your name was? I thought about it. It was true. Strangers don't know the names of little boys and girls, or who their parents are. I guess not, I said. See, I'm not a stranger. I'm your friend, and friends help each other. That's what I'm trying to do for you. So if you crawl out the window, me and you can meet all my friends, and the fairies living in the forest, too, said the Leopard Man. I was hooked. I wanted to meet all his friends, and I wanted to get my soccer ball back. So I pried the window up and crawled through it. One thing that I didn't notice was that the Leopard Man was big. He had been less big than my dad. My dad's about 6'2", and he squeezed my hand so hard that I was afraid he was going to break it. As we walked, I could tell that he was breathing really hard, and all he talked about was how he couldn't wait for me to see his friends at the house. We walked for quite a while, and we finally came to a clearing where I saw a house. It looked like it had been abandoned for years. The roof was caving in, the windows were broken, and all you could see was darkness. "Is this your house?" I asked. "Yes. Doesn't it look so fun?" said the Leopard Man. I didn't think so. "I want to go home. This is scary," I said, trying to yank my hand back. "No, you're not going anywhere now. This is your home forever. You're going to meet all my wonderful friends," the Leopard Man said. He pulled me into the house, and I smelled something really bad. I tried to cover my mouth and nose from the smell, but I was trying very hard not to cry, too. The inside of the house wasn't much better than the outside. The floors, the walls, they were all decaying. The man led me to the basement, and the smell was absolutely horrible. He gripped onto my hand even tighter, and I kept telling him that he was hurting my hand, but he just kept walking down the stairs, breathing hard. When we got to the bottom, all my eyes could make out were shelves lining the walls with round things on them. The Leopard Man told me to sit, and he went to turn on the basement light. As he did, he said, "I'm so excited that you can finally see my friends, William." The light turned on. The light allowed me to see what was in the room, and I screamed. The round things were heads, and they were on every shelf with labels over them. In the middle of the room, there was a pole with flesh on it, a pole going horizontal across. It was as if two poles were making a cross. I screamed and ran up the stairs. I looked back, and I could see the Leopard Man running behind me, trying to grab my clothes and pull me back down. I ran out through one of the doors and into the forest. I didn't know where to go, so I hid in some brush. I couldn't go to sleep. I was too scared, and all night long I heard screaming and running. He was trying to get to me, and I tried to hold my crying until morning. I survived the night and eventually made it back to my house early in the morning. My parents didn't even notice I was out. Frankly, I was too scared to tell them I had snuck out. I told no one my experience, and frankly, I would keep it a secret for the rest of my life if it wasn't for the news story. They found the house. Turns out the Leopard Man was just some creep. He liked messing with kids and cutting off their heads, displaying them on shelves as his sick trophies. He was insane. He stuck all their organs into a cross to worship the one who shall live forever, whatever that means. I'm scared, but I'm bringing the story to you so no one has to live through the hell like I did. Screw that Leopard Man. Screw whoever still relates to him. He can die in hell for all I care. I've got some strange things living in my woods, to be sure, but let's hope there's nothing like that lingering in the branches of my trees. Moving on to a well-known contributor to the channel, Scare in a Box, we hear about a strange man who owns a strange business, and maybe goes about stranger business still. So, let's hear about the last hunt of the Reaper. They walked in without a care in the world. I acted relaxed, hiding my eagerness, forcing my face to appear bored. The bell above the door rang as it closed, and a group of 4 teenagers entered, 3 girls and 1 boy. The group spoke in hushed tones as they walked about the store, studying cryptic items that reeked of the occult. Though people were often attracted to the forces they were unable to grasp, those who did go ahead with the ritualistic requirements of my shop were few. My store was perfect to attract those few, however. One of the girls approached the desk to talk to me. "Excuse me," she said. I feigned interest. "Yes, young lady, how may I be of assistance? Do you know anything about Ouija boards?" "I know all there is to know about them. Youngsters like you tend to poke fun at such objects." The girl's friends, accordingly, snickered at the back of the store. Yet, those who play with it rarely repeat the experience. And there are those, of course, who aren't lucky enough to be able to repeat the experience. The girl mulled this over. "Why do you sell it at the store, then?" I smiled. If I told her the truth, she would think me a joker and not go through with the ritual. So I lied. These are items that directly connect to places better left alone. If one were to destroy said item, one would find themselves in the darkest tangles of destiny. By their very nature, these objects must exist to keep the balance of the world. Oh, how they ate that up, and with such earnest expressions. The girl who was talking to me was especially entranced. It can be healthy to experience these things, such as Ouija boards. If nothing else, they can humble those who jeer at things much more powerful than they are. I eyed the girl's friends. "So you're saying you'd rather curse other people than be cursed yourself for the greater good?" the girl asked. I nodded. "You catch on quick." The girl handed me the Ouija box, and I passed it over the scanner. "What are you planning to do with this? Contact someone dear?" The girl shrugged. "Some boy at our school was killed in an abandoned warehouse north of the town. We want to see if his spirit's there." "Spooky stuff." The girl laughed. "Very spooky stuff." "Hey, pal," the boyfriend of hers said in an overly aggressive tone. "Yes, pal," I repeated. Boys like this were always the first to crumble at the sight of a threat. Their wills were weak, their minds feeble, susceptible to the tiniest divergence from their authority. Most humans were, but some more than others. "That board ain't cursed, now is it?" I spun the board in my hand. I undid the small strip of tape and opened the box, showing it to them. "This, my youngster, is but cardboard and wood and a little bit of glass. This ain't cursed. But you are doing the cursing. If I had to give you one piece of advice, I'd tell you to leave this board and everything that has something to do with it alone." "Oh yeah? What then? You gonna sell us some herbs to cast away devils?" And the boy laughed. I pointed at the patches of herbs at the back of the store. "I could. Would you like some? I do advise you take them." "Just buy the Ouija board, Mary," the boy said, half laughing as he walked out of the store. I decided then that one would likely be the first to go. The girl, Mary, smiled at me politely. "Sorry for them." "Sorry for them as well," I said with a shrug. Mary paid, and I handed her the box, wishing her the rest of a good day. Just as she reached for the door, I called back. "Miss?" "Yeah?" "Here, I've got something you might want to take." "Oh, I'm out of money." "That's all right. It's a special offer. I like to treat my polite customers well." And I smiled. I've got to be careful with my smiles. I've turned people away through its supposed wrongness. Mary felt none of it, however, and returned to my desk. The girl was so honest, so naive, I had to hold myself from sprawling laughter. I pretended to search the shelves behind me, held out my hand, and materialized the necklace. An amulet. My blessed gift. I showed it to the girl. The amulet was a simple cord with a small metal raven attached to it. It looked Masonic and rural. Perfect concoction. This, I said, is called the Blessed Raven. This is an ancient amulet worn by Celtic priests when they battled the forces of evil. The amulet by itself is made of simple materials, but I had a bunch of them blessed in Tibet. They should protect you, should anything bad happen. Anything bad? She said. I shrugged. Spirits are, by their nature, temperamental. The realm beyond is tricky, so it's good to be prepared. She held out her hands. Do you accept the amulet? Sure. I closed my hands around it. Do you accept it? Yes, Jesus, I accept it. I felt the bond form and smiled again. This time the girl recoiled, even if suspiciously. Thank you. She exited the store in a rush. Falling back on my seat, I let out a sigh of relief and chuckled. Once again, they had fallen for the blessed gift, like raindrops in a storm. I've achieved a lot over the years. I was proud of my kills, proud of my hunts. For today, or very near today, I would celebrate with a feast. They'd never see the demon before it was at their throats. Demons do not as a rule appear out of nowhere, nor is their existence something lawless that ignores the rules of the natural world. Our existence is very much premeditated, necessary even. Even if we are few, and our work is not substantial enough to change the tide of history, rumors of us tend to keep humanity in line. We do not eat humans. Well, some of us do, but not because we need it for nourishment. We hunt, and it's the killing that sustains us. Our bodies turn the act into energy. Sweet, sweet energy. And merriment. Our means of hunting and preparing the prey also vary. Each of us has very constricting contracts, which won't let us do as we please. For us to be hunters, we need to be strong and fast and, above all, intelligent. These are traits not easily given. They must be earned, negotiated. They must be exchanged. I, a Xaronan, operate in a very quaint manner. I am bestowed with a capable body, though I cannot hunt my every prey. For each group I go after, one member must survive. Hence the amulet, the blessed gift. A gift for the human who survives, and a cursed nuisance from me. I must offer the amulet to a human, and the human must accept it and wear it. This chosen one will be completely and utterly physically immune to me, from the moment they put on the amulet to the moment death comes knocking. This may cause hiccups during a hunt. If I hunt in a populated area, the amulet human might escape and get help, and I will be powerless to stop them. Imprisoning them is considered an attack, and as such, I can't stop them from leaving. My own survival, my hunts, must take place where no help can be reached. Most importantly, the amulet human is to be my weakness. A single touch from them would burn my skin. A punch would break my bones. A single wound could become fatal. I'm a monster to humanity, but these few humans are monsters to me. Nonetheless, they pose me no danger. I'm careful in selecting them. They must be the weak link of the group, the naive soul, who will either be too afraid to face me or too sick to get to me. I felt them, felt the blessed gift, getting away. I could sense its direction, its speed, the heartbeat of the one who wore it. I knew when she took the amulet off to inspect it, then put it back on. I know what she thought as she thought it, and I know she felt uncomfortable all the same, as if something was watching her. It was. I was. Even after this hunt was over, even after she threw the amulet away, there would be a burn mark shaped like a raven on her chest. I would never be able to touch or hurt her, and I wouldn't need to. I would disappear, only returning when it was time to plan my next hunt, years from now. I wish I could still feel those who were saved by the blessed gift. Did they hate me? Did they fear me? Somehow, had they ended up revering me as a force of nature? There was one I'd like to meet again. I'll never forget those eyes. She'd been a little girl, and if still alive, she'd be but a withered old crone now. Her health had been lamentable then, so I doubt she lived this long. So I sat, and while waiting for Mary and her friends to take the Ouija board to the abandoned warehouse, I thought back to my glorious hunts and my disgraceful hunts. To that horrible, wretched hunt. That day my body had been masked as a friendly bohemian of a lean but frail build. I decided that the campers on the remotest side of the mountain would be more willing to pick a hitchhiker up if he looked as non-threatening as possible. Thus, I made my body into a thin bohemian. I could always bulk it up. Later, maybe. The first traveler that picked me up was a pleasant couple with a child. As a rule, I never went after couples. First, because hunting a single person was unsatisfying. And second, because the amuleted member of the couple would be greatly inclined to hunt me down in vengeance. Though that wasn't a worry I normally had, with so many campers going around, I was sure to find another group. I caught 2 more rides until I found the perfect people. I ended up coming across a batch of young adults and teenagers having a picnic below the viewpoint, and 2 of the youngest were in wheelchairs. The girl in the wheelchair had a visible handicap on her left leg, while the boy was pale and sickly. It looked like their older brothers had brought them along with their friends, though they hadn't done so out of obligation. They all looked happy and cordial, but there was a hint of discord in the undertone of some of the strings of conversation. I smiled. It was so delightful. Sorry to disturb you, but do any of you have any water? I could see that the older one eyed me warily. Was I a vagrant? Was I dangerous? I held up an empty bottle. I ran out a couple of miles ago, and the last time I drank from a river, I ended up having the shits for a week. That got a laugh from them, and the older ones eased up a little bit. I have a bottle right here, the girl in the wheelchair said, grabbing one from her backpack and handing it to me. Well, thank you, miss. What's your name? Marilyn, she said, and just like that, I was in for the hunt. Through comical small talk, I was able to make the group accept me for the night. I had canned food in my backpack, which I shared. I had cannabis and rolling papers, which made everyone's eyes light up. Hadn't I been who I was, these youngsters would have remembered this night for the rest of their lives. Only Marilyn and the boy in the wheelchair eyed me warily. Are you well? I asked. She looked away. I had to earn a place in her good graces. She was weak, and her health seemed frail. She'd be a good fit to wear the blessed gift. You don't seem okay. My lungs, they're not great. Asthma. I nodded as if I perfectly understood the ailment, and as if it had brought me, or a dear one, suffering as well. You know, when I was... Hey, Marilyn, one of the teenagers said. He was tall and buff and looked much like Marilyn. Leave the guy alone. Marilyn's eyes turned back to her feet. "That's all right. She's cool," I said. The boy looked at me as if I was some alien who had no conception of human culture. "Cool, you say?" He wore a jeering grin. "Yeah, sure thing." After engaging in an uninteresting conversation with Marilyn, who appeared to be greatly immersed in what she was saying, I got up to go to the bathroom because the time seemed appropriate. Sociologically speaking, I don't really use the bathroom. I use the opportunity to spy on the group from afar, to observe their interactions. As soon as I was out of earshot, of human earshot that is, the group turned on Marilyn and the sickly boy. "God, Marilyn, you're so lame. You never talk to us, and you're talking to that bum," the oldest boy said. "You never let me speak," she protested. The girl next to the boy, who I suppose was his girlfriend, slapped his arm and said, "Don't be nasty to your sister. She's the antisocial freak, not me." Tears strung Marilyn's eyes. "Screw you, John." The scene went on for a while, time I used to plan the next part of the hunt. I returned and sat near Marilyn again. She was still sensitive from before, though I managed to bring her out of her shell by asking her about her friends, what she usually did in her spare time, her favorite books, and so on and so on. She liked the classics with monsters, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein or Bram Stoker's Dracula. I was alive when those novels were published, so in a way, they were very dear to me as well. I occasionally had to switch the conversation to the other kids in the group, but I tried to talk to Marilyn as much as I could. And an interesting thing began to happen. Something that had never before come to take place. I kept the conversation going out of pure interest. I was sick, most probably. Demons can have illnesses of the mind, or so I've been told, yet the effect was clear. I was enjoying the conversation, and as such, I kept it going. I could have introduced the amulet a long time ago. Hours ago, in fact. The sun was setting, and the group decided to hop back in their truck and ride to a campsite 20 minutes away. They were kind enough to let me ride with them. "I do sense something strange today," I eventually said. Me and Marilyn were in the back of the truck together with the sick boy, who was quiet and refusing to attempt any conversation whatsoever. "Something strange? How so?" "Do you know why I wander around so much? It's because I hate cities. The reason's simple, if you can believe it. I can feel bad things. I can feel bad feelings. In a city, there is stress, anxiety, sadness. There's violence, frustration, and pollution. Out here, there's just nature. There's peace. There's an order, an ancient order, harmonious in so many aspects. Here, I feel safe." Marilyn nodded towards the front of the truck. "You're probably feeling my brother, then." "I felt him a long time ago. I'm feeling something different now." I reached over to my backpack and froze. Should I? The moment the amulet was around her neck, it'd be too late to halt the hunt. These thoughts of mine befuddled me. They weren't supposed to happen. Why me? Why now? "Are you okay?" she asked. I nodded. The sullen boy glanced at me quizzically. "Yes, I'm sorry. As I was saying, I feel something different now. Something I've felt before in these mountain ranges. I think something evil lurks in these woods. This could help." I bit my lip as the amulet formed in my hand. I clutched it in my fist. Marilyn lit up. "Ooh, what is it? Some kind of artifact? Some witchcraft thingy?" I smiled, and it wasn't a grotesque smile. It was painful. "Yeah, you could call it that. This is an amulet, the Blessed Raven. It's a gift." "Oh, thank you so much. It's for me, right?" "Of course. Do you accept it?" "It's pretty. Damn right I accept it." I nodded, hesitating, then handed it to her. Something in my chest weighed down as she put the amulet on, and I gained insight into her mind, into her heart. She was happy, content even, that someone was talking to her, making an effort to get along with her. "Does it look good on me?" she asked. "Suits you just fine," I said. It was strange how I knew that, even if I had to, I wouldn't be able to kill her. Nevertheless, the hunt was on now. It was too late to turn back. The kids set up camp. I helped. I also helped Raelyn down from the truck. Slowly, my thoughts turning to mush midway as I thought them. The sickly boy kept studying me as if he had already guessed what I was. Even if he cried wolf, what good would it do? Destiny was already set in stone. "You keep spacing out," Raelyn told me. "I'm just tired, and the woods are really beautiful around here." Raelyn nodded, "but also dark, a little too dark if you ask me." Raelyn's brother lit up a fire. I had to surround it with stones as embers kept threatening to light the grass on fire. The forest would have no option but to witness evil today. Let it at least not see fire. The group naturally came to rest around the fireplace, stabbing marshmallows and crackers with sticks and holding them up to the fire. It was a chilly but pleasant night. "Have you ever heard of the midsummer ghost?" a boy said. And so it started. I glanced at Raelyn. She'd be safe. She'd at least be safe. The midsummer ghost always hides like a man in need. You never see him for who he is, for he only lets you know what he is the moment he's got his claws in you. This was too fitting. God was playing tricks on me. Legends say that he was a little boy who was abandoned in the woods by his parents. They hated him, all because he was deformed and broken. It's said the boy never died, and that he was taken in by the woods and became part of them. He asks for help, as help has never been given to him in life. If it's denied ever again, the midsummer ghost will slice and pull your entrails out and dress himself in them. The children were silent as I began to let go of this human form. What was I doing? Why wasn't there a way to stop this? But there was, and it would cost me my life. The sullen boy in the wheelchair moaned, grabbed and shook the wheels, then raised a finger at me. One by one, everyone at the fire looked at his hand, then turned their head at where he was pointing, turned to face me. I wasn't smiling. I was no longer myself. Raelyn was the last to look at me. Her eyes watered as my skin came apart to reveal my hard, thick fur, swaying as if I were underwater. Her brother screamed. The others followed, all except Raelyn. Above fear and horror, above disgust, Raelyn felt disappointment. I wanted to end the hunt there and then, but I couldn't. If I stopped now, it would be my life on the line. "Why?" Raelyn asked. I lunged. I attacked her brother first, went for his throat, saw his blood made dark by the light of the fire, seeping into the leaves and grass. My body finally finished cracking out of its fake human cocoon, free at last. There were few sensations as pleasant as the soft, earthly wind caressing the claws at the end of my tentacles, caressing the thousands of small tendrils emerging from my mouth. My true form felt the freest, and yet I wanted nothing so more than to return to my human shape. Raelyn was white as snow, the expression on her face that of a ghost who'd long left its human body. She was seeing a monster, a gigantic shrimp of black fur and eldritch biology, a sight reserved for books, for nightmares. Raelyn turned her chair and sped down into the darkness of the trees. The entire group scattered, in fact, yelling for help, leaving me alone by the fire. I looked at it, empty, aghast at what I'd always been. I stomped the fire until it was nothing, just burning coals left behind. I ran after the two girls who were always next to Marilyn's brother. Their bodies were pumping with adrenaline, running faster than they would have otherwise considered normal. I caught up to them while barely wasting a breath. Thus worked the wonders of my body. I crumpled the head of one against the trunk of a tree, then robbed the heart out of another. With each death, my body became lighter and healthier. The hunt was feeding me, making me whole again, and I was emptier than ever. One by one, the group was lost to me. One by one, they were rended by my claws. I tried to kill them before they got the chance to fully look at me. I didn't want to be the last thing they saw. Lastly, I came before the sullen boy. He moaned, afraid. He'd sensed me from the start and knew he was doomed. Those closest to death often have that skill, though it's a skill that rarely saves them. "I'm sorry," I said. "Stop!" A trembling voice came from behind me. It was Marilyn. I glanced back and saw a petrified girl clutching a kitchen knife. She hadn't run away. She'd gone to the truck to find a weapon. Foolish girl. "I can't. I'm sorry, Marilyn, but I do what must be done. I'm bound by the rules as ancient as dawn. You showed me things. I thank you for that, but I cannot stop." I raised a claw. "Please stop," she sobbed, and pushed the chair on wheels with all her might. I brought my claws clean through the boy's skull. His soul vanished instantly. I felt crippling despair emanating from Marilyn, a pain so hellacious my lungs failed to pull in air. I couldn't move, not while she wore the blessed gift, and her mind streamed all its intensity into mine. The knife in her hand plunged into my back. There was pain. An entire universe threatened to pour out of me. The agony of the countless people I'd thrown to death's precipice threatened to overwhelm my existence. Above my physical ailments was only Marilyn's pain. It took centuries worth of stored energy just to keep myself from passing out. She removed the knife. It clattered to the ground. Remorse, all her anger and fear, turned into simple, mundane remorse. "I'm sorry, little one," I whispered. Marilyn, sobbing, yanked the amulet off her neck and threw it over where the knife had been. Where the amulet had been, her skin smoked, and the shape of a raven formed. She'd always be safe from me. That was my only comfort. I was curled up, trying not to move. Each breath of mine was raking pain. I was told even a punch from one who wore the amulet could prove fatal. Here I was, stabbed, black, slick blood like oil gushing out. "Won't you finish me?" I croaked. "I'll find you," she managed to say through shaky breath. I heard her wheels turn, cracking dry leaves as she escaped. The only human to ever touch me disappeared into the moonless night, into the embrace of the forest. My head was filled with visions of Marilyn as I walked to the warehouse. There was something odd happening with Mary, the girl who'd brought the Ouija board. I felt the usual fear and anxiety, yet there was something strange in her emotions, as if they were thin, as if they were veiled. I scouted the perimeter around the warehouse, spied through the windows. I saw the 4 teenagers moving the eyepiece over the letters on the board, laughing with their nerves on edge. Little fools. I smiled. I went to the front door, let go of my human skin, and waited until my true body came to light. The sun was nearly set, the sky bathed in those purple tones of dusk. It was the perfect hour for my hunt. I opened the door, entered, and closed it hard enough to make sure my prey would hear me. I set a chain around the door handle, and I froze. The girl sporting the blessed gift ceased being scared at once. Instead, triumph of all things filled her heart. Oh no, I had walked into a trap. "So you've come, Agaraman," a familiar voice said to me. I was still and aghast. I wanted to be content to hear Raelyn again after all these years. I wanted to go and hug her and asked her how she'd been. But that wasn't how our relationship would go tonight, was it? She was old now. Old and worn and tired. "You've learned my name. I haven't heard it spoken aloud in a long time. Everyone I spoke to judged you a legend, but I knew you were a legend that bled. Bleeding legends can be killed. I spared you out of necessity. I should have killed you when I had the chance. I was afraid, but I know better now. I spent my life trying to correct that one mistake." She smiled, gesturing at me, and my chance to do so just arrived. She walked into the few remaining shreds of light coming from the hole in the roof. Raelyn was old and weathered, though she wasn't in the wheelchair anymore. She walked with the help of crutches, but she walked. She had a weapon held towards me. It was a kitchen knife. "Everyone, you can come out." Mary walked over to Raelyn. Other people sauntering in from the shadows, all holding weapons. Blades, knives, bats, axes, everything. All showed the burning raven mark below their necks. I recognized each and every single one of them. They were people I had permitted to live, while forcing them to be aware of their loved ones' deaths. I smiled, finding glee I hadn't known I had. Last, I was the one being hunted. "The girl who bought the board was a good actress," I said. "My grandchild," Raelyn explained. "I trained Mary well. You were hard to find, and I was sure you'd be harder to catch. Hopping from town to town, always changing appearances. You really were a ghost." "A rather interesting ghost," an old man said from the side. I remembered him. He was a historian whose colleague I had hunted during an expedition. "I found you in documents centuries old. You once struck up a friendship with a monk who studied you." I nodded. That man had been a lot like Raelyn. He gave you a name after your philosophy. Agaraman. How many innocents have you killed since then? Hundreds? Thousands? "Too many," was my answer. "Do what you must. I did what I had to do, so I won't apologize. You know I cannot attack you, but that doesn't mean I can't wear you down. Or run." I turned to rush the door, but there was a young woman there, with the raven mark below her neck. She had a pitchfork. "It's no use," Raelyn said. "We each had our weapons blessed. I spent decades studying you. You might be fast, you might be strong, but against us, you're powerless. I won't sit idly by as you hunt me." And Raelyn smiled, so very much like me. The sweet girl I'd known was nowhere to be seen. I had transformed her into a monster, She had never wanted to become that. Blessed weapons couldn't save them. I could dodge bullets, so evading their attacks would be a piece of cake. I would walk out of there victorious to live another day. Raelyn seemed to guess what I was thinking. She fished something out of a purse and handed it to her granddaughter. I squinted and froze. It was one of my hairs, a short knife, and a vial of thick black oil. My blood. Don't look so scared now, Agara Man. You must know what this is. Surely you know what will happen if you try to hurt a wearer of the blessed raven. I squinted, jumping up on a wall and trying to climb out a window. Bullets flew and ricocheted all around me, and I was forced to retreat down. Damn it! Raelyn put the hair on the knife and emptied the vial over it. She handed it to Mary, who got on her knees, put her hands on the ground, and raised the knife above it. Triumph. So strong. Triumph emanated from that girl. You killed so many. I know this was your nature, but it was a corrupted nature, Raelyn said. If it had been anyone else, I wouldn't have cared. But this was Raelyn. I was unable to doubt the rightness of her words. There are others like me, others more dangerous. You should have lived your life, been happy, counted that as a blessing. Should have counted that as a gift. You threw your life away. She shook her head. I will hunt others after you, or those who will come after me will, at least. I'm old. I need to rest. Raelyn held her hand out, telling her granddaughter to wait. When you hunted me, something happened to you. As if you didn't want to be doing what you did. Took me years to accept that. You were paralyzed by me, and as such, you let me strike you. You bled. I tried to run again, and again, bullets came, this time from the outside. Raelyn truly had found all my victims. I was starting to panic. My fur swayed furiously. I was outmatched. I was told humans would become too fragile after a hunt to come after me. Demons could be so blind. All you stand for ends here, Agara Man. Thanks for saving us. Yet that will never account for your sins. No, wait! Raelyn nodded, and her granddaughter stabbed her own hand with the knife, blessed with my fur and blood. A knife with me in it. A pain washed through me all at once. This was a direct breach of my contract. A part of me was hurting a wearer of the amulet, and as such, I paid the price. I screamed, fell, convulsed. I saw colors bursting as pain threatened to subdue me. Then I felt a kick, a punch, a hit, one after another, all from the branded, all from those I had saved. The dark unconscious I'd brought on so many finally caught up to me. I smiled as my prey became the hunter, and life eluded my body, becoming but a husk of ancient oaths. I do wish there had been more of those. I could have listened to an entire series about the Reaper and those that he hunted. Moving right along, we have a story from Copper Abbey 6, which has a maddening little jingle embedded in it, one that I find myself humming every now and again too. So, let's hear the tale of the Lanky Leery Lasso Man. I've read somewhere that booze inhibits the part of your brain that creates dreams. Maybe that's a load of crap. Maybe nightmares are born somewhere else. Who's to say? All I know is that I was pissed drunk when I collapsed on my mattress that night. Yet, I'm back here all the same. Back in this rotting wooden carcass. Yellow, late afternoon daylight slices lazily through the gaps between the rotten boards. Steady, continuous flecks of bloated dust dance through the rays. The dirt floor around me is strewn with ancient browning hay, stale and brittle, stinking with the dried horse piss of a century and a half. It's a spacious, musty room that I stand in, probably 60 yards long from the front door to the back, and at least as wide. The ceiling is high and vaulted, as you'd expect from a place like this. The apotheosis of eerie, long-forgotten, off-the-highway wooden barns. This one sits at the top of a gentle hill, at the end of a yawning, breezy field, like a decomposing specter. A pointed tower extended off the roof, sagging drunkenly to one side, curling slightly back in on itself, like a giant spindly index finger. Like it's coaxing you to pull your car over to the shoulder and take a leisurely jaunt across the swaying grass. Like it has something to show you. Hell, I know it does. It's shown me before. Right on cue, the shadows around me are doing a different dance than that. The creaks and groans are a bit less passive, a bit more aggressive. The massive room around me is not so empty and spacious. Then there's a louder creak from above, loud enough to sound as though it's calling my attention, and I raise my head towards the ceiling for a look. I'm never able to stop myself. Bodies, dozens of them, hanging from the withered, crisscrossing rafters. They're strung up from the downbeam like haphazard tree ornaments, some tight against the ceiling, some with enough slack in their fraying ropes to hang down within 10 feet of my head. They're in various stages of decay. I see one that's especially wilted, with shrunken black, lifeless skin. It swings inconsequentially, almost weightless. The face looks like it's sewn together from dried leaves, but there's another to its right, hanging 15 feet below it, and it's much newer, bloated, purple and slick, ready to burst like a balloon and fill the air with noxious gas. The sane thing would be to turn tail and run, screaming, hands over my head, out the big wooden door and back to where I came from. But again, dream logic is steering this ship now, and I didn't actually come from anywhere. Another sound joins the symphony of woody creaks and groans. Dull footfalls, one after the other. I can picture the worn-down boot heels from the sound alone. I force my eyes open slowly, ignoring every fiber of my being that screams and begs to keep them closed. Nightmares don't allow for blissful ignorance. The figure emerges slowly from the farthest horse stall on the left wall, sauntering more than walking, and at first I have to squint my eyes to make out any sharp lines, any defining features. But there aren't any. It's only a shadow, and an impossible one at that. There's no light coming in at the right angle to create one. But it's here, all the same. It's tall, stretching what must have been 7 feet up the wall, and thin. If I were looking at a real living person, I might think he must be malnourished. But even again, I doubt that traditional food is the kind he's interested in. The shadow's right arm swings casually at its side. His left is raised up, loosely gripping some protrusion that juts from his left shoulder. An unmistakable shape sits atop his head, a wide-brimmed hat, the front brim bent skyward. A thin, spindly shadow extends from his mouth. Piece of straw, perhaps. He walks slowly, paying me no mind, till he reaches the middle of the far wall. Then he stops, leans forward slightly, and spits. A shadowy streak of phantom tobacco juice splats to the ground. The shadow stands still, perfectly still, too still, until I'm almost sure that it won't move again. And it doesn't move. Not really, anyway. What it does next feels less like moving and more like morphing, developing like a Polaroid picture from blank darkness into full, vivid reality. Suddenly the shadow is full, 3 dimensions, and the transformation was so understated and ephemeral that I didn't catch how or when it began. It looks like a man, just as tall and gaunt as his shadow had suggested, and dressed from head to toe in dusty, tattered clothes that have no discernible color. His forearms and face are the only exposed skin, if you could call whatever revolting membrane something like this wears as skin, and they're caked in grime and soot. A large, droopy mustache sits above his lip, which is curled upward and backward to reveal something between a sneer and a snarl. What shards of teeth exist are rotten, brown, and sunken, like cockroach soldiers standing at attention. His left eye is covered by a leather patch. His right gleams electric yellow through the dim barn. His left hand is still raised, loosely gripping what I can now see as a rope, coiled around his left shoulder like a scaly, undead snake. I'm not afraid now. Afraid is too simple a word for it. I'm frozen, paralyzed by a cocktail of terror and revulsion that fills me from my feet to my scalp. He's almost 50 feet from me, but I can smell him, sour, dank, alive in the most nauseating way, 'cause he absolutely shouldn't be. We stand there, facing each other, immobile as marble statues, for what has to be a full minute. Neither of us make a sound. Then, voices do come, but not from either of us. They come instead from those figures swinging slowly above us, synchronized like a hellish choir, raspy and dry, not generated by moving lips or breathing lungs, but emanating from them as a collective. He's the Lanky Leery Lasso Man, got a twirling rope and a steady hand. His rope's his brush, the barn's his easel, and he's pegged you, boy, for a yellow weasel. The Lasso Man remained perfectly still, but his yellow eye glimmers with satisfaction. His puppets are speaking on his behalf, and it pleases him. He don't like a man with a jelly spine. He'd like to kill you. He'd like it fine. Around your neck, then around the oak. He'll yank you up. You'll squeal, you'll choke. You're meek, you're soft. Your manhood soured. You're pathetic, boy. You're an awful coward. Can't make the cut. Ain't even one. You're lost cause, boy, and your time is done. Now, after what feels like a minor eternity, he moves. His left arm drops from his side, bringing the coiled rope with it. With the practiced nonchalance of many years, he draws out an end, which has been knotted with a loose loop. His time is vast. His rope swings long. He's waiting for you to prove him wrong. It'll never happen. You won't never show. You ain't a man who'll stand toe to toe. The lasso's loop, now hanging patiently, begins to sway back and forth, slowly at first. Then it swings faster, longer. After a few swings, he cracks his wrist, sending it up, around in a full loop. It fires up above his head, then brings it back around so it scrapes the floor with a meaty thunk that reports violently through the barn. His eyes gleam brighter. He brings the loop around again. Thwack! Crusty straw scatters at the impact, a puff of dust swirling with it. He sees you well. He sees you whole. He sees the depths of your timid soul. Try to stand your ground, rebuke the shame, but you'll swing with us, boy, all the same. He swings his rope steadily, and the thwack accompanies the chant like a monotone. He's the Lanky Leery Lasso Man. Face him down if you think you can. Got just one leering, jeering eye. He'll use it, boy, to watch you die. The phantom continues to search me with his singular burning eye. No visible movement, but the lazy crack of his wrist. What happens now? Renewed fright pours through me like a wave of cold water, but I decide I don't want to stick around to find out. I close my eye again, clench my fist, trying to will myself out from the dark corner of my subconscious, back to the waking world, and to an undoubtedly sweaty set of bed sheets. But the barn refuses to fade, stubbornly continuing to exist around me. The bodies above swing, erratic arcs through the rafters, crashing wildly into each other. The fresher ones impact with wet slaps, the older ones with dusty thuds and the crack of bones. Now, their impossible, mouthless voices are back again, not reciting chants this time, but making insane guttural noises, screams, laughter, I can't tell. Screaming, creaking, slapping, groaning, and thudding. Dull boot heels thudding together as they move towards me. He's done waiting. He's coming. I spin around, my feet finally free of their fear-induced anchor, and I run for the door behind me. I skid on hay as I reach it and start yanking on the iron handle. At first it doesn't budge. 100 years of grime and rust have settled it stubbornly into place. The footsteps are louder now, closer. The rope hits the ground again, and I feel a gust of air from the swing. I give the handle one last desperate yank, and the door relents. It whines angrily open, and the afternoon sun streaks in through the gap that can't be more than a foot wide. It's wide enough. I squeeze through sideways, feeling splinters tear through my shirt on both sides, lodging into my chest and back. I try to run, but my foot catches on the edge of the door, throwing me to the ground in a heap. I'm up instantly, running harder than I have since my Little League days. The 300 yards to the road may as well be 300 miles. I make my arms and legs pump together. Within seconds, the barnyard dirt beneath my feet becomes grass. Now that I've reached the field, I feel a jolt of elated relief. It's short-lived, though. A sudden whoosh joins the sound of my panting, and something falls neatly around my head, settling on my shoulders. Then the loop yanks tight around my neck, and I'm stopped cold. My feet kick crazily in the air in front of me as I'm whiplashed backwards. My panting is stifled by a choke, and I feel my neck crack as it's yanked from its proper place. I'm on my back. He's dragging me back towards the barn. Rocks and stickers tear hungrily through my clothes as I grind across the stiff prairie grass. But I begin to slide more easily once I'm back on the dirt. I claw desperately at my neck, trying and failing to get even a finger between the rope and my throat. No use. I'm not seeing real images anymore, just cloudy, fading shades. The glow of sunlight disappears immediately as I'm yanked back into the darkness of the barn. Finally, the pulling stops, and I'm left to lay still for a moment. A bit of pressure is released. I manage a couple of raspy breaths of stale air. There are thundering boot heels again. They stop a couple of feet from my head, and I can feel him standing over me. I can smell him, like rotting citrus and stale tobacco. He yanks me upward. My neck cracks again as more ligaments are torn out of place, and I scramble to my knees in an effort to keep him from ripping my head clear from my shoulders. His hands hold me there, and after my eyes get another few seconds to readjust to the darkness, he crouches down so we're face to face. I use the last of my strength to clench my eyes shut. I don't want his grimy skin and glowing eye to be the last thing I ever see. He's close now, his nose only inches from mine, and he breathes heavily. I've never known a smell to be so horrible. When he speaks, his voice is humming, a growl, a legion of locusts buzzing in unison. Do you know this rope was made for runners, boy? There's another whoosh as he casts the free end of the rope over the rafter, looping it easily over one of the higher beams. And now I'm being lifted a few feet at a time. He's hoisting me up to join the others. My feet are barely kicking, my arms hanging uselessly at my side. I have no strength left to claw at the noose. My vision fades completely now as all the oxygen leaves my brain and the world around me grows dim. I lose all feeling in my legs, now my hands, now my chest. My hearing is the last thing to go. But just before it does, I hear his ghoulish choir begin their chant again. He's the Lanky Leery Lasso Man. Now, and only now, do I finally wake up, choking and shivering, tangled in a set of bed sheets which are completely soaked. The barn and all its horrors are gone, but their effects linger like an afterimage on my soul. I sit upright, trying and failing to slow my heart. My face is slick with tears and snot, and as I catch my breath, I realize with some embarrassment that sweat isn't the only reason the sheets are damp. Not that there's anyone else to feel embarrassment for. I feel out at the other side of the bed to confirm that it's empty. And of course it is. Even my bunny rabbit upstairs neighbors are quiet as church mice tonight. God, I'm so damn alone. And God, my place is so damn quiet. Since there's no other person to grab onto, I settle for my old baseball bat that I always keep leaned against the nightstand. I grip its rubber handle and hold it to my chest, enjoying the cold feel of the aluminum on my skin. It's relatively small, the one I swung during my 12-year-old session. Over the next 5 and final years of my baseball career, I owned a variety of bigger ones, heavier ones, better ones. Still, there's something about this one that maintained its special appeal to me, because I miss that season sometimes. I miss being 12, the year I batted a .486, pulled straight A's, convinced Maddie Taylor to be my date for the 8th grade dinner dance. That kid had an iron grip on his life, simple though it was. A future with a shine of polished chrome. What the hell would he think of the pathetic bastard he'd turned into, 16 years down the line? I throw my bed sheets in the washer and head for the living room, with my bat still in my hand. I take a few fiery gulps from the amber bottle on the counter, then slam the cork in and flop onto the couch. It's suede, this thing. Can you believe it? A guy like me, with a salary like mine, buying a brand new suede couch he absolutely couldn't afford, to stick in an apartment that he can just barely afford. Of course, at the time, she insisted that it was the only one to get. Serious adult furniture for a serious adult couple. So I'd grinned and swiped the credit card like the dumb, love-struck puppy I was. Now, one serious adult breakup later, I'm sitting here alone, the luxurious feel of a month's pay under my ass. Time passes. Just how long, I have no idea, and my adrenaline cools. My eyelids are heavy again, and the cushion is cloud-like. I feel myself sinking, melting, peacefully away. Thwack! And I'm on my feet, bat raised high, my pulse jackhammering against the back of my eyeballs. I've started to lose track of time. It slipped away from me, bit by bit. My routine continues. Shower, toothbrush, coffee, drive to work, spreadsheets, numbers, graphs, drive home. But more and more, it all seems to be happening on a sort of mental cruise control. No real active participation on my end. I'm interacting with the world through my thick, soupy curtain that keeps me sleepy, out of touch, dulling my senses until an occasional thwack yanks me back to reality. My days are drenched in sickly yellow, like the sun is a distant memory, and my world is lit only by his eye. I'm lonely. I find myself pulling my phone out just to stare at the contact photo. The press of a button. I can hear her voice. After all, what the hell are my pride and self-respect worth when I'm losing my damn mind? I hate this room. I hate this apartment. Every corner, every crevice is decorated with knickknacks, filled with trinkets that I never liked. never wanted. Is there anything in here that was actually my choice? A nervous voice pulls me away from my brain-dead spreadsheet scrolling. Apparently the big guy wants to see me. Crap news, no doubt. I trudge down the fluorescent hallway to his office. On the way, I pass by a framed poster of a rock climber. Its caption informing me that today is the best day to be my best self. The big guy is pissed. That much is obvious as soon as I settle into the swiveling chair on the receiving end of his desk. Red, sweaty face, dark stains beneath his pits. He wants to know what I've been doing the last 2 weeks. If there's any figures I can show him, any concrete evidence that I've been doing something resembling work. I answer honestly, I really don't know. He raises his voice, probably trying to intimidate me into subservience, but I'm already gone again, back behind the curtain of yellow fog. 2 weeks? Was that what he said? Is that how long it's been since the nightmare started? His hand comes down on the desk. Thwack! Again, he grits his jaw, verging on a full tantrum, but he takes a deep breath, composing himself, tells me to listen. He's got a brother too, he says, an older one, and if something were to happen to his older brother, something like what happened to mine, well, anyway, he guesses he'd be a little off-kilter too. But time is money, and this is a result-based business, and if I can't find a way to snap out of this funk, well, he'd expect me as a team player to do the stand-up thing and take some unpaid time off. There, he's said his piece. He wants to know what I think. What do I think? Good question. Truthfully, there's plenty that I'm thinking about the big guy. But, being the sane, self-preserving person that I once was, it had never crossed my mind to tell him. Maybe it's time I did. I tell him that a good tailor will know how to let the collar out of his shirt a bit, because right now he looks like it's choking him. He looks like a cherry push pop squeezing out of a cardboard tube. He's upright in his chair now, stiff and straight as a 2x4. There's spittle forming at the corner of his mouth, but no words. Not yet. This feels good. I decide to keep telling him what I think. Where was I? Right. What's the deal with him and Janice from accounting? I don't think there's anything cool about infidelity. Not if you're just going to sneak around with some woman who's fatter and older than the one you're already with at home. What else do I think? Last month at that big client meeting, I think it was total crap to pass my concept off as your own. It was a big pitch, the kind that really could have changed my portfolio, helped me establish a genuine reputation, but he had to go and snatch it with those big, sweaty, sausage-roll hands of his, which was a mistake on his part, because everyone knows he's too damn stupid to create a pitch like that for himself. That was what I think. Naturally, he's unimpressed with what I have to say. He invites me to leave with a voice that rattles the walls. He tells me to grab a cardboard box from the printer room and throw my things in it. I tell him there's nothing important enough to take, just a stapler, a bobblehead, and a couple of pins. If he wants, he can try to fit them all in his ass at the same time. I really hate this apartment. It's grown beyond a laid-back, complacent disaster and into an active, seething disdain for the carpet, the walls, the ceilings, and everything in between. Now that I'm unemployed, I've got nothing to do but sit here, simmering against every little detail. Like that thing on the bookshelf across from me, that gaudy elephant sculpture. It's tacky as hell, and I despised it from the moment I first saw it in that snooty antique store she dragged me to on what had been a perfectly good Saturday morning. I'd asked her how something so gaudy could be so expensive. She rolled her eyes and told me I had no taste. Maybe she was right. Maybe I didn't have any taste. Maybe I still don't. But I do have this. Thwack! Little League bat. And I gotta say, that damn sculpture looks much better in 1,000 shards than it ever did in one piece. What else could use some redecorating around here, I wonder? How about that battalion of expensive candles lined up on the mantel? Shit, how many different seasons does this place need to smell like anyway? I wonder if it can get 'em all in one swing. Turns out it can. Espresso machine, bedside lamp, that record player that had replaced my stereo, that full-length mirror that had replaced my dartboard. They all go to oblivion. A gratifying symphony of splinters, shatters, and crashes. 20 swings later, once I've run out of smash-worthy trinkets, I turn my attention to that freaking suede couch. Nothing too satisfying I can do to it with my bat. Should I set it on fire? Nah, I'd probably bring the whole place down. Hell, I'll just move the damn thing. It's a total bitch to get through the front door, but with a little creative geometry, I muscle it out onto the sidewalk. I step back inside, breathing heavily, surveying the new decor of my place. It's a war zone, but at least it belongs to me again, and me alone. Just like that, the loneliness is back with a vengeance. My brother's gone, so is she. Hell, even Cindy from the next cubicle over is a burned bridge now. I've never felt such intense singularity. I'm still relatively young. How long can this go on? I can see my entire future, thwack, stretched out in front of me, like a parched and endless desert, one I'll have to travel alone. I'm not sure if I can make the journey. The barn, the bodies, the lasso man. They're just a nightmare, right? So why am I suddenly feeling pangs of jealousy for that version of me? The one swinging helplessly in the rafters, losing consciousness, fading into a warm black. Because he had the desert behind him. That's why. 2 rings, 3 knocks. Then I swing the door open, and she looks bewildered. She jerks a thumb over her shoulder, wants to know why our couch is leaned up against the parking lot dumpster. Well, 'cause I put it there. She shakes her head, hardening into anger. Then she puts her palms up, seeming to ask for a fresh start. She asks me to listen, tells me she's been doing a lot of thinking, soul-searching, really. I ask her if she's been doing this soul-searching over at Kevin's house. She recoils at the question, looking hurt, but she seems to know it's a fair jab. She starts crying, and for a brief second, I'm almost taken by the swell of pity. All the complications of the last few weeks can't overcome 3 years' worth of genuine goodness. Can they? She says she messed up, says she made a mistake, and a huge one at that. And yeah, the whole Kevin thing was unforgivable, but I have to acknowledge that things weren't 100% one-sided, right? We weren't exactly living in a storybook. She says I'd gotten complacent with my life, with our lives. She'd started to feel like she was drowning with me. And after so long, after so many months of drowning, she'd just had a stupid moment of weakness. I can understand that, right? I don't have to forgive it, but at least have to understand it, right? She's missed me. She wants to try and make things work. She can't make it all make sense right now, but can she at least come in, talk about it, so we can, she doesn't know, be together? I stand there in my doorway, trying to absorb the tear-laden speech, using my body to block her from seeing the chaos that my living room has become. God help me, I do want to let her in. I think about the endless, yawning stretch of that desert, the miserable prospects of walking the whole thing alone. The thought of her body pressed against mine is almost too tempting to pass up. And how much is my pride really worth? In light of all that I've been going through, how much am I worth? She looks up at me with vulnerable eyes, then buries her face in my chest, dampening my t-shirt. I hold her. We stand there. It all feels good and warm, familiar, and thwack, horrible. That's how it feels. I've never felt smaller, more pathetic, less like a man in my entire life. Even while swinging there in the barn, whimpering, spitting, begging the lasso man for mercy, with my eyes bulging out of my skull. I grab her shoulder, press her away as I answer her question before she can ask. No, she can't come in. We can't just be together. Is she kidding? Does she even fathom the damage she did with that selfish, impulsive crap? how it felt to be torn in two at a point in my life when I was already hanging by a thread? No, she can't come in, ever again. In fact, the thought of her showing up on my doorstep, thinking we might still be an option, makes me sick. I turned then, heading back to face the shattered remains of my living room. She calls after me, tears flowing freely now. She tells me in a throaty sob that Kevin threw her out. Where's she supposed to stay? I tell her she can sleep on that suede couch she loves so much, and close the door. Time passes. I barely notice. The big guy is gone. The girl is gone. My brother's gone. But the lasso man is very much here. I can thwack, hear his rope. I can smell his breath. Sometimes I can see the glow of his eyes in the corner of my own. He's not through with me yet. Wants to finish his work. I'm inclined to let him. My bat lays there on the carpet. It's 28 inches of aluminum giving off a friendly gleam in the moonlight. I pick it up careful not to cut myself on any of the shattered glass and porcelain scattered around. I grip it with both hands, thinking back to the days when I could still stand the sight of myself. I want to hit something, smash something, take all my nauseating pain, this paralyzing apathy, and chase it off, if even for just one brief moment. But what's there left to hit? All of her knickknacks and decorations are obliterated. All her mirrors and picture frames are in shards. My work laptop is a devastated mess of splintered wires and circuitry, all evidence of my servitude to the big guy, wiped clean. I'm the only one left. Thwack! It's just me. I need a drink. I step over towards the kitchen where a half-empty bottle of Jack sits invitingly on the counter. I pick it up by the stem, about to twist the top off, when something stops me. Maybe it was just a reflection from outside, just a simple trick from my eyes, but the bottle of amber liquid seems to glow yellow, if only for a brief second. I think back to my first drink when I was 17 years old, flumped on a beat-up basement couch at some house party with my brother. We were celebrating a victory. We'd played in our high school's annual band battle earlier that evening, and handily secured the trophy with a pretty decent rendition of Layla by Derek and the Dominoes. We used to spend full weekends in the garage together, the two of us and our guitars, melting the hours like ice cubes in the sun. Why had we never gotten back to that? What could have possibly eaten all that time in between? Well, this bottle in my hand for starters. Suddenly things make more sense, 'cause it takes two to tango, right? And a village to raise a child, and 3 strikes to make an out, and at least a pair of mice to screw in a light bulb. And now, it's past time I got completely honest with myself, being steamrolled by the big guy, getting ripped apart by the girl, losing my brother, and my absolute best friend. It's all been, well, suffocating. Still, my life belongs to me. Since I hate what it's become, chances are I've had something to do with it. Carry the bottle into my newly spacious living room. I flip it around and catch it by the stem, so I'm holding it like a club. Then I toss it in the air, take a quick loading step and swing. The aluminum barrel catches the bottle dead center in its boxy body. Crashing glass, shards clatter against the walls and windows. Fiery liquid showers everywhere. I survey the results, feeling somehow lighter and stronger at the same time. What else can go? What else has been purchasing my days on Earth at bargain price? I spy my monstrous, self-built PC setup, glowing LEDs on the unit, ergonomic keyboard, and a blazing processor fast enough to take me where exactly? All the hours burned, all the money spent, all the life I've lived through that 15-inch monitor. And what do I have to show for it? The sheer immensity of the frittered away time rolls over me, weakening my knees. Suddenly, the glowing LEDs fade from green to sickly yellow. A few swings and some sizzling, splintering plastic later, My knees are strong beneath me again. In fact, I'm feeling better than I have in weeks. I step back into the kitchen and whip open the freezer door, scanning over the frozen goodies that have made me soft around the middle, short on excess breath, sapped of all the energy I had when I was younger. I bat them all like lazily hung curveballs. Frozen fries and burritos scatter across the room. A pint of cake batter ice cream takes a chunk out of the drywall. My cell phone, my beer stock, my mason jar of weed, dingers, every one of them. Ridiculous, wasteful, self-performative nonsense? Probably, but lately, I need all the catharsis I can get. Soon I'm standing in the middle of my living room again, surrounded by the crushed and shattered remains of my former life. It's leveled, swept away. What's going to take its place, though? Anything I want. My new life belongs to me. But of course, I need to put first things first. Had I grown 6 inches? Or is this just how freedom feels? I smack the barrel of my bat against my palm and take one last look around. Then, I step out the front door. My car coughs itself to death unknown hours later. Since then, I've been ticking off the highway miles on foot. But this gentle asphalt hill I'm climbing is the final one. I can feel it in the soles of my feet, the crackling at the tips of my fingers. A yellow fingernail of burning sunlight is peeking over the horizon line as I reach the top of the slope. And there it is, 300 yards off the road. It sits like a decomposing specter, as it always had. A pointed tower extended off the roof, sagging drunkenly to one side, curling slightly back on itself like a giant, spindly index finger, coaxing me to stroll across the swaying glass, like it had something to show me. I accept that offer. 10 minutes later, the grass turns to barnyard dirt under my feet, and the building looms before me. I see it clearly, every knot in the wood, every rusty protruding nail. There isn't an ounce of fuzzy dreaminess to cloud my brain. I'm fully, completely here. I take a tight grip on the handle of the sliding door, fully expecting the same rusty resistance as before. But it coasts open easily, only offering a minor squeaky complaint. I step inside. Scattered hay crunches under my feet, stinking like ancient horse piss. Bright morning sunlight sharply through the gaps between the rotten boards. Dust flecks dance through the rays. It's a spacious, musty room I stand in, and save for the occasional wooden groans, it's completely silent. So I stand here, bat in hand, waiting, alone. But how alone, really? Less so now. The atmosphere of the barn changes. Suddenly the shadows are doing a different dance than before. The creaks and groans are a bit less passive, a bit more aggressive. The massive room around me is suddenly not so spacious. Then there's a loud creak from above. I don't look. I've seen his gruesome, swinging chorus too many times before. They began their chant. He's the Lanky Leery Lasso Man, got a twirling rope and a steady hand. For a moment, I try not to listen, fixating on the comforting weight of the bat in my right hand. But as their raspy taunts cut deeper into my head, a sudden jolt of righteous indignation lights up my chest. His rope's his brush, the barn's his easel. He's pegged you, boy, for a shut the hell up. And immediately they do. Maybe that shouldn't surprise me. They are dead, after all. Forgotten, fading, turning to dust. As for me, I'm alive. Maybe more so than I ever had been. Their creaking slows to a near stop. I stand. I wait. Finally, he comes. He saunters slowly out from the same horse stall as before, gliding slowly across the wall, this time without the theatrical aid of his chorus. My knees are still. He reaches his spot in the center of the closed wooden door. This time I'm not surprised by his ephemeral transformation. Now he's here, in his full, sooty three-dimensional form. Same toothy cockroach sneer below the same droopy mustache. Same leather patch over his left eye. Same crackling yellow glow from the right. His clothes remain colorless, the snake-like lasso hanging over his shoulder in the same casual way. It's funny, though. For all the little ways he appears so identical to the Lasso Man of my nightmares, there's one noticeable difference. This one is a lot shorter. We stare each other down as the choir swings wordlessly above us. I shift my bat to my left hand, then back to my right. He brings his lasso around from his shoulder, lets the knot loop drop to the ground with a thump. "Stupid to come here, you jelly-spined weasel. You should have left me alone." His taunting smile disappears. His lips tighten over his cockroach teeth. He begins to swing the rope, slowly at first, back and forth. After a few swings, he gives his wrist a hard crack, sending the loop around in a complete arc over his head, then back down again. At the bottom, it slaps the ground. Thwack! Like a sound I know well. He sneers again, and his voice buzzes with new vitriol. "I'd get steppin' if I was you. Ain't too late to run." "Yeah," I nod, feeling a sudden, improbable sneer of my own. "It is." Now something amazing happens. That glowing yellow eye in his leering left eye, the glare that has struck in my mind like a splinter since I first saw it, flickers, goes dim, and I can see the dark, impotent blackness behind it. He brings his lasso. Thwack! Around again, angrily this time. My sneer grows bigger, and in a force of lingering 12-year-old habit, I tap the aluminum barrel of my bat against the inside of my shoe. This bastard was pretty good with that rope when I was running scared. Let's see how good he is when I'm coming right at him. "You'll swing, boy. You're a weasel, and you'll swing like the rest of 'em." "Yeah, guess we'll see about that, you gangly son of a bitch." I lifted my bat to my waist and gripped it in both hands. Now, I take a long step forward. Guess we'll see. One more story, and then I think it's going to be time for me to go seek out the tale of Dr. Plague's nap once again. But we have a good one to finish off on by our dear friend, NewAgeSolutions. So let's hear a story about the knocking in the woods. I'd been living in my house for about a year before the knocking started. It didn't happen often, probably once every 6 to 8 weeks. They would only be 1 or 2 knocks each time, and they always came from the woods behind my house. I never got a close-up view of what made them. Were always obscured by the trees or other cover. It was broadly sized, a solid, dark color, and appeared to stand upright. I nicknamed it Whoop, because that's exactly how the weird call it seemed to make sounded. I definitely heard it whooping more often than knocking. I'd always try to answer, but could never get another reply. Now, I'm sure I know what you're thinking, and before all this happened, I never thought of or knew much about anything like Bigfoot or ghosts or the paranormal. And to reiterate, I still don't know what Whoop even is, because I never got an actual clear visual. If anything like that existed, I thought it just added more mystery to the world. I came out here to live a quiet, simple life. I don't want fame, attention, or publicity, and figuring Whoop wanted the same. Provided we keep our boundaries, I thought the two of us could have a peaceful coexistence. Shortly after the knocking began, my garden and animal pens started getting raided at night. It only happened once every so often, but something would pillage my crops, my fruit trees, even steal one or two of my farm animals. My garden and pens kept all kinds of animals of all sizes. This was the first time I'd ever had a problem, but since whatever was doing this managed to slip in and slip out with ease, I quickly realized that it was Whoop. I tried using trail cameras to catch an image of it, and maybe act as a bit of a deterrent. It worked at first, but Whoop eventually found a way around the cameras, and, if it had to, it smashed or knocked them off the post. After this happened a few more times, it became evident that Whoop's nighttime visits occurred on the same day I heard the knocking. Discovering this correlation made me pay close attention to the details of Whoop's nocturnal marauding, which made me notice another pattern. It always either ransacked the garden or the animal pens, and never did both on the same night. When I aligned the number of knocks I heard each time, and which section was subsequently raided, another pattern became clear. 1 knock meant gardens. 2 knocks meant pens. The knocks, I thought, have to mean it was hungry, and whether it wanted a carnivorous or herbivorous meal. The next time I heard Whoop knocking, I put that theory to the test. It was a single loud knock that came around dusk, and was actually followed by a quick whoop about 15 minutes later. 1 knock should mean garden, so I filled a bowl with fruits and vegetables and grains and nuts, and laid it out on a large flat rock about 20 yards from the tree line. I was hoping an offering like this would be my way of letting Whoop know I understood its message, and it would turn away from the garden. Sure enough, it worked. I saw no sign of any disturbance in my garden the next morning, and everything I left for it on the rock was gone. This became my protocol whenever I heard the knocking, and it worked every time. Then, a few months later, my boyfriend Jesse moved in with me, and the knocking stopped. Nothing happened for about 5 to 6 months, and I figured Whoop must have just left the area. I told Jesse about the knocking, and the offerings I left for it. Naturally, he was skeptical about it, and when nothing happened those first few months after he moved in, it was hard to not blame him for thinking I was just crazy. Then, out of nowhere, the knocking resumed. I was sitting on my back porch one evening, admiring the diamond necklace Jesse surprised me with when he came home earlier that day. It had a silver chain and a heart-shaped diamond charm that was light pink in color with gold earrings, and glimmered wondrously in the sunset. I actually jumped upon hearing the knock. It was clear as day, and coming no more than 50 feet from inside the tree line. I should have been delighted to hear a sign from Whoop, but something was oddly different about these knocks. Something that just didn't sit right. This time, there were 3. 3 deep, hollow-sounding knocks. The first 2 were practically back-to-back, but the third came a few seconds later, throwing me off my guard. Whoop never knocked 3 times. What did that mean? What did 3 mean? Hoping to cover all my bases, I laid out a spread of fruits, vegetables, even fish, sweets, and other random items on the offering rock. Jesse didn't hear the knocking when it happened, but played along anyway, despite emphatically reiterating his skepticism. When I woke up the next morning, there didn't seem to be any disturbance in the garden or the pens. It looked like my offering worked, or so I thought. Upon stepping outside, I spotted something on my back patio. A large clump of knotty, thick, dark brown hair that I noticed had a streak of pink highlighting it. I went to pick it up, but immediately dropped it and stumbled back into the kitchen, struggling to maintain my balance while comprehending what I had just saw. There was more than just hair in that clump. It was an entire human scalp. I sprung into the living room to get Jesse and spilled onto the floor upon entering. I could only frantically point towards the kitchen back door and sputter panicked gibberish until Jesse managed to calm my nerves by firmly holding me in place. There, out there, the patio it's something. I couldn't even make complete sentences. Hair! The hair! Jesse looked more confused than worried. He got me onto the couch, saying he'd check it out, but wanted me to stay put until he returned. I heard Jesse open the kitchen door and step outside, where he remained for about 5 minutes, which to me felt like hours. I was flooded with relief upon hearing Jesse step back inside and make his way down the hall, but he gave me an answer I didn't expect. "There's nothing out there. What exactly did you see?" Jesse said as he entered the living room. Despite what he said, Jesse's face had almost no color, and he wore his flustered, petrified expression like he had just seen a ghost. The worry on Jesse's face made me feel horrible for scaring him like this, but there was no disputing what I'd seen. "Jesse, when I went outside, there was a clump of hair out on the patio," I shakily replied. "Not just hair, but an entire human scalp. It was placed there by something." I brought up calling the police, but Jesse quickly interjected. "What are you going to tell them? The thing that lives in the woods behind your house put a human scalp on your back porch? Then, what, took it back?" Jesse asked with a notable tinge of sarcasm. "Even if they didn't think you were crazy, they can't do anything without proof, and according to you, it vanished." Jesse wasn't fond of the law, but he made a point. Despite my reluctance, I went back outside with him to poke around, but found no trace of a human scalp. It was moved, I thought. There was only one animal around here that could have done it with such impeccable covertness, and if that was the case, the prospect of being able to get that close without me knowing still keeps me up at night. When I checked the offering rock, nothing I left out was touched, which made me even more unsettled. Jesse tried convincing me I mistook it for something else, but again, I knew what I saw. Jesse managed to put me down for a nap later that day. It was dusk when I woke up, and despite regaining some composure, I felt no less on edge. The house, I noticed, contained an eerie stillness. I called for him, but he didn't respond. I went downstairs and found a note from Jesse in the kitchen, saying he had to make an emergency shipment for work and would be gone for a few days. Jesse was a truck driver. He travels a lot, so last-minute jobs springing up like this are nothing uncommon. I tried to call his phone, but it went straight to voicemail, which wasn't unusual since reception out of town was subpar at best, and stayed like that for quite a while. Nonetheless, I was now completely alone in the house, and at a time when the last thing I wanted to be was by myself. I thought about leaving, but it was already dark, and I didn't even feel comfortable venturing beyond the front door. Before going to bed, I made sure that every light in the house was on, and an opening or entrance was closed and locked. Remarkably, the night passed without incident. Although the next few days were uneventful, I still couldn't get in touch with Jesse. Whenever I called him, his phone went straight to voicemail. Although he claimed not to find anything, the expression on Jesse's face that morning said differently. I feared Jesse actually saw the severed scalp, maybe even caught a glimpse of Whoop, and was so spooked it made him leave. Most of his belongings were still here, though, and it was too uncharacteristic of him to be unreachable, so I was assuming the worst. While trying to make sense of Jesse's abrupt departure, I continued obsessing over Whoop's gruesome gift, and a few days later, the questions I had some answers. The police showed up one morning and said they had to use my backyard so they could access a crime scene in the woods. Turns out some hikers stumbled across 5 bodies at the bottom of a ravine, about a mile away from my house. Investigators said the bodies were initially buried, but got dug up by some kind of large animal. It not only exhumed all 5 corpses, but apparently ate and dismembered large sections of the bodies. I was certain that Whoop had committed these grisly killings, and my suspicions were confirmed after seeing a photo of one of the victims. Her name was Heather. She'd been missing for about 2 months. She had a pretty face with gleaming green eyes and beautiful brown hair, which contained a prominent pink highlight streak. That human scalp I found the other day, it belonged to a woman. But then, the case took a very different turn. Despite the body's battered conditions, investigators managed to identify all 5 victims. They were mostly prostitutes, junkies, and drifters. They were all from different parts of the country and had no connection to our town or the surrounding area. Autopsies revealed every one of them had died from strangulation or blunt force trauma, which to me still implicated Whoop. There still had to be some sort of underlying connection, explaining why these victims wound up here of all places, and I found that link when looking at the picture of another victim. When I saw it, my feet almost buckled. The necklace that woman had worn in the photo, silver chain with a heart-shaped pink diamond and gold edges, was the same one I'd got from Jesse. Whoop hadn't killed those people. It was Jesse. I went to the police and told them about the necklace, but didn't say anything about the human scalp. They searched my house and found a stash of random items belonging to all 5 victims, which they said were probably trophies Jesse kept as mementos, likely as a way to remember the murders. I never heard from Jesse again. He's still at large. Detectives think he could also be behind some other unsolved disappearances and murders that happened in the spots along the trucking route. They're still investigating. Once I put the pieces together, I painted a macabre picture. Jesse, my boyfriend, killed 5 people. He must have encountered them along his trucking route and brought the bodies back here to be buried. It's unclear if Jesse held them captive before killing them, or did it immediately and hauled their corpses around, both of which are equally disturbing scenarios. Looking back at the day Jesse left, I think he did see the human scalp and disposed of it himself after realizing it came from one of his victims. Jesse fled, but only to avoid getting caught. Whoop was the catalyst behind his departure, but not because it was trying to protect or give me a warning. It just wanted to eat. Whoop must have come across Jesse's burial site on its own or followed Jesse during one of his drop-offs. This also made me realize what the 3 knocks had meant. It was hungry for human meat. After eating those bodies, Whoop must have developed a taste for human flesh. And here's why I'm certain that's the case. One night last weekend, a solo camper went missing in the same stretch of woods behind my house. On the same evening of her disappearance, I heard 3 loud knocks coming from the woods. And just like that, our tales are at an end for another day. I do hope you've enjoyed this episode of Cozy Horror, and I hope you'll be back for many, many more to come. Until then, this is Dr. Plague, wishing you a wonderful day and a spooky evening.